This is a stitched together compilation of TikToks explaining why some believe the US is heading toward collapse. I don't own these clips. This is purely for educational and awareness purposes.
Manufacturing is never coming back to America. Never. And boomers won't let it go. And you know why manufacturers never coming back to America? Because people and businesses were sold on outsourcing. Remember, outsourcing was supposed to lower the costs for companies so that higher wage jobs and higher skilled jobs could be brought to America. But that didn't really happen. We don't have the infrastructure for manufacturing. You don't build a factory in 30 days. Frankly, you don't even build a factory in a year. And even if we did build the factories that we wanted, you still can't afford to do manufacturing here. Why? Because you don't pay living wages. Your employees wouldn't even be able to make enough money to live off of working for you. So it's not even plausible. And even if you did want to pay them more than the bare minimum, your customers couldn't buy what you could produce because it would be too expensive. Manufacturing in America, for the most part, is done. We do assembly. We get the parts and the pieces from all these different places and we put it together and we sell it. But this whole concept of we're going to manufacture these things and compete with countries like China, India, yeah, good luck with that. That's never going to happen.
American manufacturing will never come back to America, okay? This is the most ridiculous thought process, okay? Regardless of what the media tells you, what the fucking White House tells you, it will never happen. It is impossible, and I'll explain why. The reason why everything is made in China is because the labor's cheap, because the labor laws over there are a lot different than in the United States, okay? They don't have ambulance chasing attorneys that run around and try to sue companies or try to cause issues like America does. It is very much a very pro-business, pro-manufacturing, pro-trade nation. Hypothetically, if they successfully brought all manufacturing back to the United States, you, the American consumer, would be fucked and you wouldn't be able to afford shit, okay? The only reason why you're able to go buy your little blow dryer and blow your hair and dry it off, and it only costs you 20 or 30 bucks is because it was made in China and labor is so cheap and laws favor manufacturing and business so much that you're able to buy it for that price. Now, if the same item was manufactured here in America, it would cost you $80 or $120. So if you want manufacturing to come back to America, just understand that if you think you're poor right now, okay, you will be renting the fucking blow dryer to dry your hair. You won't even have one in your house anymore. Additionally, China doesn't need the United States. China has the rest of the fucking world to do business with, okay? And these types of fucking trade wars where there's tariffs, bro, there's ways around it, okay? If you're clever, I'm sure there's ways that companies will start having their products shipped to other nations that aren't America, and then from those nations shipping them to the United States and bypassing tariffs, okay? And this is coming from somebody who voted for Donald Trump, by the way, okay? I voted for the dude, okay? Not necessarily because I think he's the best pick, but because I wasn't going to vote for the left-wing insanity that was going on, because I felt like the left wing was no longer about economics and about what was good for America, and they were too much involved in social bullshit. And I don't want anybody in the White House that's chasing social issues. I want somebody in the White House that's chasing economic issues. So yeah, if you're one of these Americans who's drinking the Kool-Aid and you think that manufacturing is going to come back to America and we're just going to roar, it's not, okay? American employees are lazy, all right? This is coming from someone who's employed them. They're fucking entitled. They don't work hard, okay? American culture breeds people who do not want to work and are not disciplined. I'm sorry. And if you don't believe me, go over to fucking China, go into a factory, go into a work environment, and look at how Chinese people work, okay? They work to death. They work on a different level, okay? They don't cry, they don't bitch, they don't whine. They don't go, oh, you didn't give me my break time. It's not the Chinese mentality, okay? I've done business with Chinese people. They are extremely disciplined people, bro. They are overachievers, all right? If you're a little Asian kid growing up in an Asian household, even in America, and you ain't getting straight A's, your parents won't even have a fucking conversation with you, okay? They won't talk to you. They demand excellence. It is a different mentality than the United States. The United States honestly demands hot dogs and cheeseburgers for their kids, okay?
Do you know why we'll never bring a manufacturer back to America? Manufacturing is gone. It's automated. You think people in China are making things by hand? No, it's by robots now. This is why union is so important. That's why the Communist Party of China, or CPP, whatever you want to call it, they're protecting the people because everything's getting automated in China. Like, there is no manufacturing jobs. It's like saying we're gonna bring farmers back. No, farmers are gone. Like, we're being replaced by robots. It's been going on for decades. However, if we educate and invest in our people, maybe we'll be creating these robots as opposed to being replaced by them. Huh? Maybe, huh?
Trump has just told the World Economic Forum that if they want to sell products in the United States, they must be made in the United States, or you're going to have to pay a tariff. And everyone's going, oh, he's so patriotic, he's the best president we've ever had. Without they're all losing their shit over it and want to have their babies, but they don't realize the truth behind what this actually means. It just means that the cost of living in the States is going to go up. Again, why? Look at it from a manufacturer's point of view. Why would you manufacture something in the United States that you already have infrastructure elsewhere to manufacture? You're going to have to move your infrastructure. You're going to have to pay the American workforce to work for you. They're not cheap. So the price of the product is going to go up anyway if they manufacture in the States. So why not just keep manufacturing where they're manufacturing right now and pay the tariff? They don't mind paying the tariff. Why? Because the price of the tariff goes on the price of the product that they're selling. The American people are going to pay the tariff. But guess who gets to keep the tariff? The parasite class. The American government and the parasite class. They're making money while they're making the common people poorer. This is the age-old story. And when are you going to wake up and see it? That none of these elected leaders, I don't care who it is, whether they're red, whether they're blue, whether they're yellow, whether they're green, what political party they're a part of, they're all part of the same club, the parasitic class, and they will never, ever do anything for you. They only ever do things for themselves. It's time to wake up. Take back your power, take back your sovereignty, and create.
Now that corporations have had time to digest the new tariffs, it's becoming clear they're never going to build new factories in the United States. The new tariffs that hit Vietnam are 46%, and that's where Nike builds half of its shoes. And the stock is down, 15% in one day. So Peter Schiff says Nike isn't going to bring production back to the United States. Building factories here would cost more than the 40% tariff. Instead, Nike will raise prices and shift focus to other countries where people can still afford their products. This isn't just going to be Nike. Most global corporations will just follow the money, and that money is beginning to leave the United States in a hurry, because it will make more sense for these corporations to sell their products in markets that will be absorbing the wealth that is leaving the United States because of the new administration's tariffs. Everything in the United States will become harder to find and more expensive. From a new car, to produce at the grocery store, to the Nikes on your feet. This is a shift away from how America has done business for the last 80 years. People are talking about short-term pain. I don't know how pain is short-term when nothing is coming back.
I'm so glad I voted for Donald Trump. Now I have a president who's going to instill new manufacturing in America with his 25% tariff on all cars made abroad. That's not what's going to happen. You see, companies care primarily about cost, and they're simply going to weigh their options. And American labor is so expensive that what's most likely going to happen is those companies are just going to continue to make their cars abroad and pay the 25% tariff. And then they're going to pass that new cost to them onto us through higher car prices. And that's simply because 25% tariffs might still be cheaper, most likely will be cheaper than assembling their cars or building their cars inside the United States. That's because American labor is expensive. The reason you have a good salary, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, which you're probably barely getting by with, but when you compare it to the rest of the world, that is far and above the average world salary. and that's because American labor is expensive. So these companies, they're not going to just switch everything to American production. They're most likely going to pay the 25% tariff and then pass that cost onto you through higher car prices.
Why can't American manufacturers make it cheap enough that you don't import it from China? Why is it that John Deere is considering moving manufacturing to Mexico rather than just do it
cheaper labor, I assume?
Well, it's not just cheaper labor. There's technology and there's other things. But so Trump says, well, if we have these tariffs, then those companies will just manufacture here.
Yeah.
But think that through. If you could today manufacture it cheap enough so that you didn't have to import anything, wouldn't you do it?
Does the combination of AI and robotics bring manufacturing back to the United States?
We are behind in both of those areas.
Yes.
Greatly behind. You know, we do not have manufacturing, and we're not going to go back and be competitive in manufacturing with China in our lifetimes, I don't believe. Okay, so now the question is how we deal with that.
Are we going to get back to 1960s America where, you know, you get your union vest and go out and earn after high school?
With respect to manufacturing, I think there are two things that we have to recognize. You know, manufacturing was 22% of employment in the United States in the 50s. It's 8% of employment today. Which countries do we think of as manufacturing titans? Germany, Japan. Both of those countries have had almost an identical decline in the proportion of employment in their country that is in manufacturing. What's happened is that manufacturing has gotten incredibly more productive. Robotics have replaced people in many instances. So it would be a good thing to get more manufacturing into the United States. I think that's a very good goal. It will produce some additional employment, but nowhere near going back to your vision of people having dramatic upward mobility without a college degree. And on top of that, many of the jobs in those factories are technology jobs, keeping the robots running, not screwing in bolts and nuts or moving packages from A to B.
Okay, I have to make sure we all understand a basic truth about Trump's trade war. The best case scenario here is that everything in the United States gets more expensive. The entire reason we make things in other countries is because labor there is cheaper and they have fewer environmental regulations. There is actually no way to manufacture things here that are better quality, that create good paying American jobs, and that cost less. The big promise, of course, is that it will all be worth it because we will have brought all these new good paying jobs to America. But for that to come true, there are some huge assumptions that have to hold up. For example, there are only 12 million Americans working in manufacturing out of 205 million Americans with jobs. And with the unemployment rate under 5%, in order to, let's say, double the number of Americans working in manufacturing, those people are going to have to come from somewhere. So if we're going to pull people from other industries, what are these new manufacturing jobs going to pay? And where are they going to be? Because there's nothing uniquely special about manufacturing jobs. What made those jobs great 50 years ago was labor unions. But you know what we didn't have 50 years ago? Right-to-work laws. These are laws that make it illegal to require union membership for new employees, since union membership comes with union dues, which come from your paycheck. This allows politicians to work with wealthy business owners to discourage people from joining the union and paying the dues. Lower union membership means less leverage, and less leverage means lower pay, worse benefits, and no job protection, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy and downward spiral for the union. The result is right-to-work states typically allow businesses to fire you without cause, without notice, and without severance, because those kinds of things are the things that are negotiated in collective bargaining. Unlike the last time America was great, we now have right-to-work laws in 27 states, and those laws are doing exactly what Republican politicians want them to do, as private sector union membership peaked in 1984 at 14.7% of private workers, and as of 2024, that number has dropped to 5.9%. Out of 150 million Americans working in the private sector, 141 million of them do not have union representation, which brings us back to my main point. The best possible outcome of Trump's trade war with China and the rest of the world is low-paying jobs in red states without union protection that still increase the cost of every single thing you buy.